Good morning. Nope. You gotta. Good morning. Had to plug in the microphone. I hope that it registered. You may not get really good sound today, but I think you will. It usually does a pretty good job. Good morning. I'm Donald, and welcome to Lunch in the Word. Today is October the 4th, my cousin's birthday. I didn't forget any of my other cousins' birthdays, but he makes sure that everybody knows that it's his birthday. So, happy birthday to my cousin. I love you. All right, so let's get going in Job again. I know that we were just in Genesis yesterday, but for anybody a little bit new to what we're doing, this is going to be a chronological reading of the Old Testament. So we did Genesis 1 through 8, 12, and now we're in Job. We're going to do Job 1 through 5 today. And I think we're going to be in Job several days in a row. Job, the prologue, chapter 1. In the land of Uz, there was a man who was named Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in the homes on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular custom. One day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" So Satan has access to the Lord just the same as the angels. I found that interesting. Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan said. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you in your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then. Everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabines attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." Sorry, pop-ups. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants. I am the only one who has escaped to come tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. And I am the one who has escaped to tell you." At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship, and he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." In all of this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. Chapter 2. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity. Though you enticed me against him to ruin him without any reason. Skin for skin, Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well, then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores, from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. He replied, you're talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? In all this, Job did not sin in what he had said. When his three friends, Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, and Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamanite, heard all about the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together in agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep out loud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. Job speaks, chapter 3. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. He said, may the day of my birth perish. And the night said, may the day of my birth perish, and the night that said, a boy is conceived. That day, may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. May gloom and utter darkness claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm it. That night, may thick darkness seize it. May it not be included among the days of the year, nor be entered in any of the months. May that night be barren. May no shout of joy be heard in it. May those who curse days curse that day. Those who are ready to rouse Levian. May its morning stars become dark. May it wait for the daylight in vain and not see the first rays of dawn. For it did not shut the doors of the womb on me to hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were the knees to receive me and breasts that I may be nursed? For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep and at rest with kings and rulers of the earth, who built for themselves places now lying in ruins, with princes who had gold, who filled their hearts with silver. Or why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? There the wicked cease from turmoil, and the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their cease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small, the great are there, and the slaves are freed from their owners. Why is light given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, to those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasures, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave? Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For sighing has become my daily food. For sighing has become my daily food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, but only turmoil. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, if someone ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? But who can keep you from speaking? Sorry, y'all. Think how you have instructed many, how you have strengthened feeble hands. Your words have supported those who stumbled. You have strengthened faltering knees. But now trouble comes to you, and you're discouraged. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Should not your piety be your confidence, and your blameless ways your hope? Consider now, who, being innocent, has ever perished? Where were the upright ever destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble reap it. At the breath of God they perish. At the blast of his anger they are no more. The lions may roar and growl, yet the teeth of the great lions are broken. The lions perish for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. A word was secretly brought to me. My ears caught a whisper of it. Amid disquieting dreams of the night, when deep sleep falls upon people, fear and trembling seized me and made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face, and the hair on my body stood on end. It stopped, but I could not tell what it was. A form stood before my eyes, and I heard a hushed voice. Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can even a strong man be more pure than his maker? If God places no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who live in the houses of clay, whose foundations are in the dust, who are crushed more ready than a moth? Between dawn and dusk, they are broken into pieces. Unnoticed, they perish forever, and are not the cords of their tent, and are not the cords of their tent pulled up, so they die without wisdom. Chapter 5, Job chapter 5. Call if you will, but who answers you? To which the holy ones will you turn? Resentment kills a fool, and envy slays the simple. I myself have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. His children are far from safety, crushed in court without a defender. The hungry consume his harvests, taking it even among thorns, and the thirsty plant after his wealth. For hardship does not spring from soil, nor does it trouble sprout from the ground. Yet man is born to trouble, as surely as sparks fly upwards. But if I were you, I would appeal to God. I would lay my cause before him. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. He provides rain for the earth. He sends water on the countryside. The lowly he sets on high, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He thwarts his plans to the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success. He catches the wise in their craftiness, and the schemes of the wily are swept away. Darkness comes upon them in the daytime. At noon they grope as in the night. He saves the needy from the sword in their mouth. He saves them from clutches of the peril of the powerful, So the poor have hope, and the injustice shuts its mouth. Blessed is the one whom God corrects. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. For he wounds, but he also binds up. He injures, but his hands also heal. From 6 calamities he will rescue you. In 7 no harm will touch you. In famine he will deliver you from the death, and the battle from the stroke of the sword. You will be protected from the lash of the tongue, and need not fear when destruction comes. You will laugh at the destruction and the famine, and need not fear the wild animals. For you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure. You will take stock of your property and find nothing missing. You will know that your children. Sorry, y'all. That was my wake up alarm in case I slept late. Let's see. For you will know that your tent is secure. You will take stock of your property and find nothing missing. You will know that your children will be many, and your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come from the grave in full vigor, and sheaves gathered in season. We have examined this, and it is true. So hear it and apply it to yourself. Old Job had it, didn't he? Man, that was tough. And to know that he still worshiped and praised God. God is still God in the mountains and in the valleys, they say. I say also. All right, let's summarize a little bit. Job, chapters 1 through 5. Today's reading lands us about 400 years post-flood, and we meet a man named Job. Initially, he sounds a lot like Noah. He is blameless and upright and fears God. In Noah's story, things got really dark, and there was some relief at the end. And we'll see the same pattern play out in Job's story. After what we covered in day 2, you may have noticed that 1 through 6, that 1:6 referred to angels as sons of God, including Satan, who in his created form is an angel. God initiates a conversation about Job with Satan. The word Satan means adversary, one who resists, and an accuser. Some scholars believe it is not necessarily a proper name that refers to one particular being, but that it's a general term referring to God's adversary, who, in this instance, is a falling angel opposing God's reign. Later in Scripture, there are references to a fallen angel named Lucifer, but there's reason to believe that the word Satan doesn't always refer to Lucifer. There are many fallen angels who are God's adversaries. In fact, a lot of people believe Revelation 12 indicates that 1/3 of the angels of God's created, 1/3 of all the angels that God created rebelled against him and were cast from heaven. So there are a lot of Satans. After God initiates the conversation about Job with one of his enemies, the enemy concocts a plan to test Job, and God allows it. There's something noteworthy here. God doesn't create the plan for testing Job, but God allows it. He isn't the active agent in the evil perpetrated by Satan, but he's still sovereign over it. And in his mercy, he limits it. Satan is on a leash. He isn't allowed to take Job's life. Satan attacks Job in a variety of ways. Job loses twice as Job's losses come twice as acts of men, Sabians and the Chaldeans, and twice as acts of nature, the fire from heaven and the wind. God grants Satan the opportunity to influence both of those things, the acts of man and the acts of nature. For God allows Satan to influence things. Those things means God himself is the one who has control over these things, because you can't give something influence over something that isn't in your domain. Job's response is humble here. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. He acknowledges that everything comes from God's hand and he receives it. He's handling his grief pretty well until 3 of his friends show up on the scene. They come to show him sympathy and comfort. And they do a great job of that during 7 days when they sit in silence with him. The problem is when they start to speak. Maybe you've had friends like that, or maybe you've been a friend like that. There are some good lessons for us here, how to comfort someone who has experienced trauma or loss. Sitting with them in silence is a safe bet, but Job's friends started giving him bad counsel. We heard from the first one today, Ephus, who claims to have a word from God about what Job has done wrong. He insinuates that Job has brought this trouble on himself, but we know from the story that Ephus is wrong here. Monday, we will see how Job responds to his opinionated friend. And today's God shot. God's sovereignty over evil should serve as a great comfort to his kids. God limits the actions of the enemy, and every action the enemy takes against Job serves God's greater purpose, and we see them unfold in the rest of Job's story. The story gets dark, but it has a happy ending. Keep looking for God in the dark spots of this story, because God is where the joy is. I think we do that every day. I think she says that every day, and I like that. We need to get that in our brains. God is where the joy is. All right, y'all. Father, thank you for another morning and lunch in the Word. Thank you for it being Friday. I pray that everybody has a safe, wonderful weekend. And I pray that this weekend is filled and full of times where we can we can speak for you, where we can witness for you, or we can show the same love that you show us, Father. Bring us all back Monday so we can continue into Job's story. We pray in Jesus' perfect name. Amen. All right, y'all. Have a good weekend. And Lord willing, we'll be back Monday, the 7th, October the 7th. And we'll go more through Job. All right. I love you.